Yo, better run like it's the Krewe NFC, the round table where the real heads be. Talking NFL, the game we adore. From the touchdowns to the legends and so much more. That fucking guy, he's got the stats on lock. Dropping knowledge on the field, watching every block. Back and bleeding green, cheering loud and proud. In the sea of cheese, he's standing out the crowd. I can't hear with the looks and the smarts. Breaking down the plays and he does it with heart. Then they're stout, solid like the line. His takes are heavy, his vision's divine. Week by week we break the game down. From every big play to every new crown. Offense, defense, we cover it all. From the springtime drafts to the winner's last call. Not just a podcast, it's a fan's lifeline. Connecting every moment from the vines to the side.
Championship Sunday, Krewe NFC Roundtable. Sean Spencer is joining us today. Show looks already better without Stout being here. Am I wrong? How we doing, gentlemen?
We
Here.
Speaking of Stout, we're one and not done. Yeah, and this is the last time Dallas was in this position. 95. Bang bang.
Hey, man.
I have a Stout's probably going to get on here real quick and be like, okay, that's enough.
So, Dak Prescott has made it to he's made it to less championship games than yours, quarterback, and Jaden Daniels. I mean,
Yeah.
that kid's insane right now. But before we get into how well he's playing and how well the Washington Commanders are playing, Chicago's pulling some rabbits out of a hat up there in the Windy City with their coaching search.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, what do you got going on up in Chicago?
Bears have a new coach.
Well, that's good for Chicago. Green Bay, what's going on?
He was the one that they wanted. He even came in and McCaskey even said, his very first words out of his mouth is, "I want this job." So I guess it was one of those things, kind of a kismet kind of a deal. So we of course did pick up Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions, their former offensive coordinator, now our new head coach, at about $13 million a year. So, to go with the old Packer thing here, that's a lot of cheddar. Now, as far as like other key positions, they're actually looking for several people, for offensive coordinator, including, I think they actually requested to speak with David Shaw, head coach at Stanford, for their offensive coordinator position. And they got a few people, as a matter of fact, that they're still looking for as far as like defensive coordinator, including people like, Eberflus, he unfortunately he got a new job, so, you can't get him as defensive coordinator. Maybe Mark McCarthy. We can actually go with, some people that potentially that Jerry Jones, in fact, was looking for. So, but as far as defensive coordinator, it's going to be kind of interesting because even if you go with somebody who's established, you have a defense that was bordering on good. You had a borderline great in certain games, but then unfortunately you had that one little offset that would unfortunately just, Tariq Stevenson, for example, who, we don't want to talk about that. But anyway.
Hail Mary.
Anyway. I said hell yes.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're on defense right now because honestly, the best signing for the Chicago Bears would be former Saints head coach Dennis Allen. He plays he has a good 4-3 scheme, which is 4-3 close post coverage, which is essentially you're just limiting that middle of that field and forcing your teams to use the outside edge. Been very successful in New Orleans. He has been successful everywhere he goes. If you look at that 2017 Saints coaching staff, it's insane with how many head coaches have just fallen off the Sean Payton tree, really. But I think Dennis Allen should be the hire here, and he definitely should get an interview soon.
Well, the key with his defense really is that you got to have that strong front four. So, and the Bears, of course, once Hicks and several others, even who's it? I think he plays for Washington now, as a matter of fact. Billings. When they let him go, you don't necessarily have that run stopper, or at least somebody that can actually take up, 2, possibly 3 offensive linemen to let everybody else do their job. And so if you can actually get one or two good players, even one player that can actually clog up that middle right there, just cause all kinds of havoc. And it's funny too because some of the better, like Mark Sappel, he was like one of those offshoots, and like Dan Hampton, those kind of guys, that would actually produce. Really, what you're looking for is if you had a defensive tackle that had 0 sacks, 0 pressures, one of those things, but doggone it, your linebackers have 150 tackles and things like that. You have a successful defensive tackle.
Well, yeah, essentially in that defense, your defensive lineman is an offensive lineman, right? He's blocking for your elite linebackers, scrape and float and read the offensive plays. But with the NFC North, you've got good receiving cores you're going to be facing, except for in Green Bay, who has Christian Watson and, I don't know, Dobbs. Who the hell's there? But anyway, I mean, you're facing good receiving cores. You got Minnesota, you got Detroit, and then you've got Green Bay. So you want to force them outside to where you have that extra defensive player in the sideline. It makes sense to me. I think it's a good place to start if you're Chicago.
Right. And then you also have several offensive linemen that they've been looking into. Everybody from offensive linemen coming out of college that they could possibly draft. Ohio State, Georgia, places like that. You've got the center, a matter of fact, from Detroit. I do believe it was Trent Williams from the Chiefs. And I think we actually talked about this a couple of weeks ago. If by chance he actually gets picked up by Chicago, is he going to get called for all those false starts? Quite possibly. But if you get yourself, players like that, and of course you stay with a couple of established players, and you have a offensive line, and even Ben Johnson's come out and very simply said, "Look, we're going to be building from the studs out. So basically, we're going to be tailoring our offense to Caleb Williams." And how many times have I said that? You got to go to the quarterback's strengths as opposed to what force him into your square peg circular hole kind of deal. And so once you can actually do that, you're setting yourself up really for success. And if the Bears actually have an offensive line to allow them to actually throw the ball downfield and be able to scan and stuff like that, we might be talking next year in the same position about the Bears in the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
So as they've already gone through an undefeated season,
sounding like Dallas all over again. I swear, you guys are mere franchises. But
says the Bucs fan.
So you got Chicago basically just taken from Detroit right now. You veteran move. Ben Johnson takes Antoine Randall, the wide receiver coach, promotes him to assistant head coach. So now no team can interview him for the offensive coordinator spot because you can't interview for something that's not a promotion. The only way he loses Antoine Randall is if he gets a spot as a head coach.
Well, and I don't know if I know some of you guys are old enough. I know, Mike, you're old. You're 51, 52, something like that. But you remember Randall when he was actually playing at one of the TF schools or whichever the case is out of in Chicagoland there, and then of course went to some school. I don't remember.
Indiana, I think. Right?
Yes, he knows. He's just being.
Oh! Sorry. I didn't know. I'm sorry.
And then, of course, had a fairly successful pro career, especially with Pittsburgh. They won the championship and stuff, and so he's basically coming home.
Yep.
Yeah, he's basically coming home, and that's certainly a good thing. And then, of course, you were talking about different coaches. You also have J.T. Barrett, who's actually the quarterback's coach now. Yeah, he went to some other school too. Whatever.
I'm not speaking to them.
You're pulling the Big Ten out of the hat here. I mean, you get J.T. Barrett. He's taking a promotion going from the assistant quarterback coach in Detroit to the quarterback coach in Chicago, where he's going to work firsthand with fingernails. And then, let's pick it up with Ben Johnson.
They look like jazz fingers or jazz hands.
So, I mean, you look at the Lions, they lose what, 4 coaches in a week? That Lions coaching staff, that Lions potential scheme is going to be vastly different next year. You're going to have to get an offensive coordinator that fits your players now, because that offensive coordinator built his team or his scheme around his players. So now you got one of the best offenses in the league. You need someone to lead it and point it in the right direction. They lose Ben Johnson. Aaron Glenn, their defense coordinator, just signed with the Jets as the head coach. And then we already mentioned Antoine Randall and JT Barrett going to Chicago. So
that's unfortunately the thing of the game. Really, when you have success, you of course people jump ship because they of course get bigger and better position. That's what it's all about. I'm perfectly understandable. But what's that do with the consistency really of the offense? Now you're going to have a completely different offense that are going to be coming into Detroit. You have those players who have actually been flourishing under Ben Johnson. Would they still have that opportunity to be able to flourish under somebody else's offense? Look for St. Brown, for example. Places like that. People like that have done very, very well this year. How's that next offense gonna work out for them?
Yeah,
but let's say at the end of the day, who cares? It's Detroit. It's not the Bears. So in that particular instance, you can certainly say that about other
Mike's
teams.
out.
Yep, Al Harris going to the Bears as well. So you have several different players that are actually coming in. It's almost like we're trying to do things that we should have done 5 years ago, 3 years ago, that kind of thing. But now I think because you have the new coach, that new coach that we were talking about, fresh ideas, young, getting paid a boatload of money, has quite a bit of resources at his disposal. He still has high draft picks. He's got a big salary cap. He's got a team that's already in place that can make waves like right now-ish. Literally, what was it, 10, 12 points? And they literally could have been
15 points. They're in the playoffs.
So, you strengthen some of your defense.
You got good veterans in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, so you got the leadership for Caleb Williams. That's really your team is basically hinged on how well Caleb Williams plays.
Right.
If he struggles again, do the Bears go back to the well? And are they drafting another quarterback in a year, 2 years? I mean, that's got to be a hit, or you're back in the circle of suck. You're back to doing what Bears do. Fire the coach, draft a quarterback, hire a coach, fire the quarterback, draft the coach. I mean, it's terrible. We have it somewhere. I can bring it up if you want me to.
No, I remember that. Matter of fact, I think I'm the one who actually said that initially. But you're actually looking at this now. You have a hot, fresh coach. He doesn't necessarily have head coaching experience, but he does have a fairly high-powered offensive coordinator on a successful team. So you're setting him up for success with a quarterback literally after his rookie season, who has shown you brilliance every player, 1 or 2 plays a game. Who needs to actually work on his consistency, needs to work on his, of course, his reads, his progressions, but he's never had the time to do that. If you get an offensive line, now you have that opportunity. And they just re-signed, I just read that DeAndre Swift to 3 years, $24 million.
Nice.
So if you have an offensive line, you can also run that ball, opens up that pass. The Bears would be like 26-0 next year. You watch.
Well, what's great is the game is actually transitioning back to where you have to have a dual offense. You have to have that running game. You have to have that passing game. For a while there, it was just, huck it, chuck it football. And that's we're finally back to football. We're getting back to, run the ball, set up the pass the ball to set up the run. However you do it, you're getting back to that.
Right. And take like Justin Fields, for example. He may very well have had success in this offensive scheme with Ben Johnson. But he tends to be a little bit more of a runner kind of a thing. His happy feet don't necessarily go to extend the play horizontally. He's always looking to possibly go, vertical. Perfectly fine. Whereas Williams, for example, is a little bit different. His little happy feet and stuff like that goes to actually extend the play so his receivers can get open for the most part. Sometimes he tries to throw them open, and, that leads to, of course, some terrible mistakes. But, I think it's just kind of like a good situation, the best possible situation that you can be in. Because, again, high draft, lots of money in the bank for people. It's just a good thing for Chicago to have right now, especially with a new head coach.
There you go. Question of the day. Have the Bears ever rebuilt their O-line since Lovey destroyed it? Lovey's destroyed a lot of things. The Bears, the Bucs. I mean, Lovey actually did real well for both organizations. Both organizations kind of just kicked him out.
Anyway. Didn't they fire him after he was 10-6 or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. But to answer that question, yes, but not successfully. So, for example, they draft like Kyle Long, who of course was a Pro Bowler the first 2 or 3 years that he was there, and of course injuries ended up, curtailing his career. You had Olin Kreutz there for almost a million years, and they could have actually brought him back in some sort of capacity to stay with the Bears to be able to. And look who they ended up getting his replacements. So they've been able to do some things, unfortunately, not as successfully as they would like to have. And you have injuries, of course. You have players that are past their prime. Everybody remembers Orlando Pace, right? Who was all everything. 47 straight years in the Pro Bowl, and unfortunately, by the time the Bears got him, he was about 3 years past his prime for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So
anyway.
Enough boring everyone with Bears talk. We're done listening to you blabber, Andy. The segment is over. Brian, can you wake some people up here? Give us something to talk about today?
With the Packers? Come on.
Honestly, that it's been a week of still trying to figure out what the hell happened with this season. Obviously, the biggest talk is the 2 receivers that are hurt. Obviously, the Christian Watson ACL injury, which now they reported the surgery had gone exactly how they were saying it was going to be. They said the rehab is going to be a lot longer on this surgery. So apparently, this was more of a overall worse knee issue than they're leading on to be. And then Romeo Doubs, obviously you saw him go out with the concussion against the Eagles. That was his second concussion of the year. And they said he's not recovering very well from this second concussion. So now they're extremely concerned on that end. Is he a liability with concussions, especially being a receiver? So with those 2, obviously red flags are going up saying, okay, Packers are looking for receivers. All these rumors going around with T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf. I mean, you name it, all these rumors are flying. I don't see it because, once again, Packers do not make trades, do not sign people in free agency. That's the way they've always ran business up in Green Bay. The only other news is Luke Getsy, former Chicago Bears offensive coordinator, is back with the Packers. In
what role was that?
As of right now, he's just, because they lost Tom Clements, the quarterback's coach, it sounds like that's where he's getting slotted in. However, Matt LaFleur has not ruled out to hire him as his offensive coordinator.
Well done. Speaking of offensive coordinators, there's a certain team that a certain co-host who's not here, shockingly, let's say he's not here.
Why is he not here? He has such exciting news this week.
Made a profound hiring by promoting former offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer to their head coach. And if you're having to guess, we are talking about the Dallas Cowboys. But in the most Dallas Cowboy move ever, they really didn't do much investigating or interviewing or, looking outside the box here. Jerry Jones does Jerry Jones things and pulls in a yes man, in my opinion. It's just status quo, right? I mean, it's Jerry's team.
Mm-hmm. But I went back to work, got up on Monday morning, and there it was. Glory hole.
So, I mean,
oh, Jerry.
If you're a Cowboy fan, are you excited about this?
If you're in the division, you're excited about this.
And if you say no, I've got better news. Matt Eberflus, former Chicago Bears head coach, great, has been added as a defensive coordinator.
Oh,
where's the song?
If that doesn't put pelts on the wall, I don't know what does.
But the terms of contract for that defensive coordinator's job was he had to return that timeout back to the Bears.
Yeah. Well, you can't take it with you. That's
My
the rules.
understanding, he actually, when he's leaving Chicago, tucked it right in his pocket. Did that for a rainy day.
Let's go with me.
Here you go, Sean.
Hey, Scott, I appreciate it. Don't jinx it. All right. We have to get through this season. Okay. The last time, 2012, we always remember it. I know things are different, but we got to get through the season and get into next season. Thank you, Scott.
I mean, I was watching ESPN today, and they were waking. Or not, no, it was NFL Network. It wasn't ESPN. I stand corrected. They were waking up the echoes of Commanders, Redskins, Washington football team pass, and they have RG3 breaking down film of Jaden Daniels.
Of course. And shout out to RG3 because he's said it since Jaden came, which is low-hanging fruit because we all knew he was going to be good. We just didn't know we were going to get this. You know, I thought Jaden was going to be good. And let me say something about the Bears real quick. I think the biggest thing I think the situations are different. Everybody tries to compare the 1 and 2, and the Bears should have picked Jaden. No, the Bears needed to have this season so they can get the coaches and the staff and all that stuff. They needed people to be around Caleb, like what we have with Jaden. It's not that Jaden's so great. It's that we brought in 30 new players. We brought in the likes of a Bobby Wagner and a Austin Eckler. We brought in the defensive members, but we brought in all those coaches, all the Anthony Lynn, Ken Norton Jr., guys that have coached around the league, all came under here, and that has worked together to get to the place where we're at right now. So it's exciting, but my biggest fear is exactly what happens to Lions. You have a great season, now all of a sudden everybody wants to poach you. You know, everybody talking about Cliff. Everybody talking, look at Joey Jr., yada, yada, yada. So
that's got to scare you with the Cliff
Kingsbury. Oh, yeah.
He's already had his interview with New Orleans, who has not made a coaching hire yet. Kingsbury's already had an interview. They've got to wait till the Commanders are completely done to go further with him. But they have Mike McCarthy already interviewed. He's sitting on the sideline. Kalen Moore they have interviewed. He's got to wait. They got to wait till he finishes playing. Anthony Weaver and Mike Kapka have both been interviewed, and yet nothing. So I think you might be losing Cliff. I don't want to be the one to say it. I don't want him to come into the NFC South, but I think that might be a real possibility.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, man. We all know hot commodity goes elsewhere. My only issue is if you heard in the bye week of the Lions, that what's his name? Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn both were having interviews and talking. Means they weren't focusing. I just hope Cliff ain't doing that right now. I know he's already had his conversation, but I need him 100% locked in.
Yeah, I get you. I'm sorry, I lost the audio there for a second. I apologize. Can you guys hear me okay?
Unfortunately.
Okay.
So you were talking about RG3 and his low-hanging fruit?
Oh, God. Big Penix energy, man. Hey, Brian, I like your background, man. I like your background.
I'm repping today.
So, but yeah, I mean, New Orleans hasn't hired anybody, and they got two people that they're looking at. Both play today in Philly and in Washington, so it could be one of them.
Oh yeah.
Johnny Dean asked Brian, "Are you leaving Green Bay for Washington now? Are you a fair weather Packer?
Come on over. Come on.
I just want to see the Eagles die. That's all.
It wouldn't happen. We tried. So we'll get into that game. I want to cover one thing in let's say the coaching roller coaster that we have in Tampa Bay right now. You've got Liam Cohen, who didn't ink it. He had a handshake agreement to be the highest paid coordinator in the league for 14 hours, maybe. I mean, within hours, he's back in Jacksonville, putting pen to paper to become the Jags' new head coach, and the Bucs are left with nothing. Baker Mayfield now has another offensive coordinator. Is Baker cursed? I mean, or is Baker making these offensive coordinators looking so good that they're like, I mean, it's got to be one of the two. It can't be Todd Bowles. Everyone says how bad a coach Todd Bowles is, but he's just putting people into the league as head coaches. How bad?
Baker's resilient. Baker's resilient. I'll tell you that. He's resilient. He doesn't matter the coordinator, doesn't matter the team. Baker gonna figure out a way. He's got that kind of heart. I like that. With that being said, how the heck did y'all? This whole story has just been crazy. 1 minute he's getting the extension, next minute he's out. Then, well, this guy's here, so I'm not leaving. Now, oh, he's gone. Now I am leaving.
Well, what's crazy is when I heard they fired their GM, I knew he was as good as gone.
Yeah.
I knew once the GM was let go, Liam Cohen was going to be heading to Jacksonville to be their head coach. There was no second thought in my mind. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was a leverage play, in my opinion, where he was like, you're going to have to come off the paper to get me to come head coach because I got this contract in hand. You know what I mean? So it was a smart business decision. It was a terrible move as a coach. It was a terrible loyalty move. But let's be honest. If you were given the opportunity to make 40% more than you're making now, if you went to your rival company, how many of us would, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay here and deal with these people that I deal with every day rather than make more money and be in charge. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You can't hate the man. He did what was best for him and his family. But anyway, but like Johnny had said earlier in the comments, the Bucs losing John Spytek, in his opinion, was a bigger loss than Liam Cohen. I don't know if you guys know who Spytek is. He was a assistant GM for Jason Light. He brought in a lot of young talent, really good with no, Johnny, I wouldn't use my kids as an excuse, but his kid was actually sick. It just was terrible that he used that. But anyway, Spytek was pillaged by the Raiders and Tom Brady, who they have a working relationship. Spytek obviously knows how to get talent to an organization. He did it with Brady. He's very good at finagling numbers and getting free agent money at sliding the salary cap, which is an imaginary number that people just make up. And the Saints have done it for years. You just can't further down the road. But anyway, Bucs losing Spytek is huge. And I agree with Johnny. All right. That was it I have for the Bucs. I mean, it's going to be rough. They've got a couple people that they've interviewed already. Marcus Brady, the passing game coordinator for the Chargers. Grant can't even say his last name. Vinzinski from the Vikings, and Nate Slihas with the Rams. I really think they're going to look into Chip Kelly. A lot of teams are looking at Chip Kelly to bring him in as the OC. And I think that's more of a stability thing. You bring Chip Kelly in because no one's going to really look at Chip Kelly as a head coach after what he's done in the NFL. As an OC, he's phenomenal. As a head coach, I don't have to worry about it. I think that gives you some stability in that position. But
it's musical chairs with OCs and stuff like that. Always, I was talking to Johnny about that this week, where it was just like, you just lost your OC last year, now you lost this, and I get the new guy up there, and you have Ben Johnson, and hopefully he gets all the success. But then I also look at Eric Bieniemy, just coming off a Super Bowl. He was highly touted in X, Y, and Z, came to Washington, and he was a dud. And now in the last 3 years, he's had 3 jobs. You know what I mean?
Like we said previous, though, Bieniemy doesn't interview well, and he obviously wasn't calling the plays. That was Andy Reid. I mean, I might be wrong. It might have been him. But how do you go from looking like you have a game plan, calling plays, to what he did in Washington? I just don't. I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong once before. Anyway, Sean dips out as we're going to talk about how great the game is going to be today. I don't think he really wants to talk about it because I don't think he's very optimistic of the chances for Washington. I don't know. I don't know how you take a run defense and stop Saquon Barkley. Look at Washington's run defense so far this season. Teams have ran all over them at will. So I ask you, How does Washington win this game?
By scoring more points.
Andy, that was the same answer you used last week, and you were right last week, and you're right this week, but that's not what I'm looking for.
It's pretty actually. It's kind of simple. You stop that run. You allow your defense to actually be a little bit more aggressive. But the problem, and I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. Probably might be better than Jane Daniels is a little bit hobbled with a bad knee, so that's kind of a good thing. He might not be able to play it as well. He might not be able to throw with authority down the field. However,
Hurts. I'm sorry, you said Jaden Daniels. I was confused. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Yeah.
And so, with that being said, he might end up relying a little bit more on Saquon Barkley, which means that it would be a little bit more one-dimensional, and they can, of course, focus on the run. However, the NFL is they prepare the player the best they can, and, they're maybe Jalen Hurts is kind of playing possum kind of a thing where he's not nearly as hurt as he shows, and if that being the case, it might end up being a very long day for the Commanders. But if that being the case, you can limit Hurts. You might be able to, focus in on just one player, which of course is Saquon Barkley. That, or maybe some chloroform or something to slow that guy down.
Chloroform.
Hey, pull out all the stops.
So you got God damn it, Andy. You have Jalen Hurts, who's not looked good. He hasn't looked good in the passing game the last couple of weeks. They're leaning on Saquon, and if you can eliminate Saquon Barkley from this game, I'm not saying go goon on him. I'm not saying you do that. They don't do that in the NFL anymore. Last team to do that was Saints with Bodygate. No team ever says we need to take out the key player. That's never happened in any locker room ever, except they need to take out key players. I think that's how Washington wins. Either you eliminate him mentally, like Lattimore did to Evans so many times, and you get him out of the game that way, or you put someone on him. You say, hey, this is your job. You eliminate him from the game plan. And I don't know. Sean, how do you see Washington winning?
Well, as far as Saquon, you can't stop this guy. He's proven over this year. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain it. In the last game that we played that, Jaden had 5 touchdowns, Saquon had over 100 yards in the first quarter. And then they were up 21-7. But when Hurts got hurt, Pickett, they had to go to the vanilla offense, X, Y, and Z. The only way to stop a guy like Saquon is to eliminate the run game. How do you eliminate the run game? You score points on offense. And you make sure that they cannot just sit here and gash. Now, Saquon is such a weapon that it doesn't matter because he's such a home run hitter regardless. So a little power or a little, wham up the middle, he can take that 50, 60 yards, and he's done that. But so for us, it's containing him. The health of Hurts is going to be an issue. For me, honestly, guys score points. You don't. If our defense has been the part of us this year that has been questioned. We played a lot better, especially against the Lions. But the Lions helped us out in a couple of those. They threw the reverse pass, that got picked. Obviously we had the pick 6.
The Lions got cute.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Where's the desk? I think he went home for the winter. Is that where Dallas went?
Yeah.
Let's go. Control the clock. Absolutely. Yeah, keep them off the field.
I like the game plan you had against Detroit. I like the game plan you had against the Bucs. You don't huddle. You force the defense to stay on the field.
Tempo. Yep.
It doesn't have to be, hurry up offense, but by not substitution and keeping your men by the line of scrimmage, you force that defense to stay out there.
Mm-hmm.
You can change the tempo of the game very easily there. The problem is in Philly, they're loud. That's a ruckus crowd. So either you're going to rely on the scripted plays that you have and just keep regurgitating them, or you're going to have to huddle or soft huddle or something. But keep it close to the line of scrimmage and you keep that defense on the field.
Oh, yeah. And this is where you
substituting.
And this is where when you talk about the crowd, you talk about the weather. this is where you want to have a guy that has the mental, the ice in his veins, if you will, of a 10-year vet. And up to this point, Jaden has been that guy. He has been just completely calm in every situation. It just seems like the moment is not too big for him. So it has to be like the first time we played on under the lights this year against the Bengals, where it was just we answered every single bell. Has to be like the Lions. We answer the offense is going off, but the defense is going to have to play. It's going to have to play big. Like, we're going to have to pop Saquon in the mouth early and often, and kind of make him look back at Jalen Hurts like maybe you should hold the ball on the read option once or twice. You know what I mean? I know that's a lot to ask because this guy, in my opinion, is the MVP. But, we're going to have to do something. But the main things we can't, there has to be no fear. Like you told me, at this point, this isn't luck. This isn't, we're just barely getting here. We beat the best team in the NFC by 2 touchdowns, and we did exactly what we needed to do. Turn the ball over. I kept running on offense. Almost ran for 200 yards. Like, we got to have a balanced offense and everything like that. But at this point, we belong here. We fought our butts off to get here. So it's at this point, you got to come in and be confident that what you're doing, that you're in this game, you being in this game, you deserve here, and they need to be worried about us. That's kind of the mindset you have to have.
Yeah, it's a generic, overstated formula to win football games. You win the turnover battle.
Mm-hmm.
You control the clock. You control the game tempo, and you pound the rock.
Yes.
This is playoff football.
Yep.
Teams win in the playoffs pounding the rock. Teams that can run the ball late in the game win the game. That's not great for you, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be the one to tell you this.
It's true. You're true.
Saquon Barkley gets better as the game goes on because the defense gets fatigued.
Yep. Really turnover. Yeah.
So you would look to run the ball more than you would look to pass the ball, just for ball control? Yeah.
Oh no, me. I'm more run and shoot. I'm saying let's get those quick passes out. Let's get them going. Let's get them on their heels and run motion. So don't give that D line and that front seven the opportunity to blitz. I'm saying keep them on their heels, quick passes over top of their head to set up the run. Our run game has been suspect. Like BCR, you said it, our run game has been suspect over the last couple of weeks. Thankfully, in this game, we busted out. But when you have 3, 4, 5 turnovers, you have more opportunities, and we had momentum. So we're going to have to pass, and that is, in my opinion, the weakest part of Philly's defense. Now, mind you, they have guys like Darius Slay and Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, but we've been able to pass against them. That front line, if we can neutralize that by kind of going over their head and keeping them on their heels, and like Mr. was saying, tempo, that is what's going to get them in their heads, get them thinking, oh my God, they're back, they're coming back, we got to keep going. I think the air is going to be able to set up the run, because the run has been our Achilles heel for the middle of the season. I mean, with injuries and everything.
The run doesn't have to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be successful running the ball. You don't need 3 yards of carry. You need the threat to run the ball. You need to keep that defensive line thinking you're not going to pass every down. You have the ability to run. You don't have to break the big play. But you can't go away from that. You can't continually pass the ball. If you go West Coast offense, you throw that short pass to use it as a run, fine. You run that screen, fine. That's still technically a pass, but it's set up like a run. You're getting blockers out in front. You're eating clock. You're controlling the pace of the game. You're controlling the tempo of the game. Go ahead, Andy. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, that actually leads to 2 more questions, or really one question in the 2 parts. Is, are you pulling anything special out of the hat? And are you going to be running Jane Daniels a little bit more? It draws things like that to keep the defense on it.
So, in my opinion, first and foremost, if I'm offensive coordinator, first play out the back, and I'm a running back, but still, first play out the back, I'm sending Terry on the fly, and I'm taking that shot deep. I want those corners to know you're not going to be able to rest all day. We're coming after you. With Jaden, I want to use him as a decoy. Everybody knows how fast he is. Everybody knows his mobility and everything he can do. So I want to do those read options, those RPOs, and get that defense to hesitate just for a little bit to see if it's on him. I'm not a fan of this whole, QB power right, QB, lead right, where he's running with two blockers and things of that nature. Because obviously, I have RG3 stamped in my mind, like, oh my God, is this the hit? Is this the play? Is this it? You know what I mean? Like, I can't get past that.
You might forget that.
No, this guy. 1 or 2 hits away. If it happens today, I'm telling you, I'm coming for you, still. I'm like, come on, man. Come on.
I mean, you really want to go down the field with that defense. I mean, if you remember, Stephen Willard Beeman tried that the first play out when he took over the second half for the Sharks, and that didn't really turn out too good. In the end, it did.
Jeez.
Any given Sunday, my friend.
Oh my God.
That's the point.
That was first out. I'm assuming as soon as the comment comes up, Andy throws the cog in the fucking wheel. Anyway,
wait. Can we address this refs comment? The refs that help to watch that we're the new Chiefs. I'll take it if we're in the Super Bowl every year. All right.
Not to get off the subject, how messed up would it be if we have the Chiefs in the Super Bowl with the Washington Reds Commanders?
Right.
How ideal would it have been if it was Chiefs Redskins? Come
on, man. They knew they couldn't let that happen. They knew that.
Anyway, Ryan, you've been fairly quiet. It's kind of odd not hearing you as much. What are your thoughts? I mean, you haven't really chimed in much.
No, I mean, I'm liking hearing, especially what Sean has to say, obviously being the fan of the team. The only question that I have when I'm like evaluating it, I was looking at the injury report, and both teams are actually, there isn't a lot glaring listed, but there's one thing that I wanted to ask Sean. With Sam Cosmi not playing, how is this line going to protect Jaden Daniels? How is this going to happen?
That's another reason why I want to do more quick passes, more up tempo, to not give them an opportunity to set and focus on him. Apparently what I almost call him Coach Rivera. Apparently what Coach Quinn too many years apparently what Coach Quinn has done was moved Wiley into guard and then put Lucas out on the side. So we got our 5 best linemen out there. They've played with each other. I mean, Wiley, he's had his history with Chiefs in the playoffs and all that stuff. So he's not afraid of the big moment, even though he has been one of the guys that we've questioned. That is going to be the number one thing on offense. But then on defense, I heard Deron Payne is out with, I think, a hand injury, something like that. He has been one of our
finger and knee injury.
Yeah, he's been one of our most productive D tackles, and not as much as in like the sacks and things like that, but just being disruptive in the middle. You know what I mean? Getting the, redirecting the running back, pushing the lone lineman back, things of that nature. Like there's a couple of times where he pushed that lineman right back into golf, to where golf is now having to backpedal or throw it and things of that. So it's going to have to be, plug and play. I'm less worried about our defense because we've had so much rotation on defense. But yeah, to your point, Carter is a beast, and Carter, Jordan Davis, them boys on that D line. If we can stop that D line, I like our chances a lot more. But with that Cosmi injury, I mean, you talk about timing, the worst possible time to have that injury. Prayers to him, with the ACL, and hopefully, he comes back stronger next year. But he's our most consistent lineman, and he's one of the only Ron Rivera picks that's still on the team, actually starting and doing contributing. So that one hit so hard.
So, how is your screen game in Washington? You have an aggressive defensive line in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you see the screen from your Commanders? I mean, I don't remember seeing much of a screen game when they played against Tampa. They played them twice. The first time it was, different team, totally different team. They played them the second time. And again, still no real screen passes. In my opinion, I didn't think either team used the screen very well. But I think with Philly, you have that opportunity, especially having an injured offensive lineman, to let that suck through and drop the pass off right behind it or off to the side of it. You slow a good rush down with a good screen game.
Well, and you look at one of the touchdowns last week from Terry McLaurin. It was an RPO, fake handoff, popped it out, 2 blockers right there, and had it. And I mean, that's kind of a screen, not the prototypical running back coming out of the backfield, but that one, quick hitter, blocks were set, took it 50 some odd yards for the touchdown. The big part of it, and I think one of the reasons why we didn't run a lot, our guy that runs the screen predominantly for us is Austin Eckler. In that game against y'all, he was just coming back from injury. Last week we kind of got up and we were doing a lot more, so other things were more effective. But a lot more screens that we'll have are the quick spot passes out to the guy with a couple blockers, kind of like what we did there. But having a healthy Austin Eckler in the game opens that up completely, because he can run between the tackles, he can get around the edge, and if you get him in space. Last week, I believe he had a catch, like a little quick 4-yard catch, swing pass, took 20 some odd yards. So having Austin Eckler opens that up. And then the emergence of the De'Ami Browns, or the, obviously the Terry, and getting him more involved. They are trying, and they've shown that they can do that quick hitting stuff. But I think it's going to be more how the defense plays. One of the things I love about what we're doing on our coaching staff is the adjustments we make on defense. We couldn't stop Evans in the first half. He's getting us. Second half, we double team him and put Lattimore on the other side. In this game, if Gibbs is blasting us, whatever, now we're shutting the receivers down, or we're trying to put people in the box or rush on rundowns. Part of that was Ben Johnson saying, all right, I'm going away from the run, because Gibbs had like 100 yards early, and then they stopped running. So thank you, Ben. Maybe he was already in Chicago, in a Chicago state of mind, but that helped us well. Yeah. Yes. Put the Y in there. It's not DI, it's DY, my guy.
Where has he been? I mean, all season you're looking for that number 2, number 1A.
All season, 4 years or 3 years since he got drafted. He came from my home, North Carolina, and I'm sitting here shouting him out to Washington. Draft this guy, get this guy. He is it. Nothing. He had the likes of Carson Wentz, which he actually did decent with. He had his college quarterback, my guy Sam Howell. Nothing. And then all season, I was ready to yank this guy. I was like, man, I'm done, because I put my name out there. I was like, De'Ami is going to be it. Nothing. And then these two games against y'all, and then obviously the game against Detroit, the guy has played elite. Like, he's played better than he's played all his entire career. So we're going to need that.
Is that Cliff Kingsbury working him into the offense now because it's needed? I mean, is that a game adjustment by Kingsbury, or is that he's just finally matured, the fruit's finally ripened, and he's ready to go? I mean, that's what you got to ask yourself, because
I think it's a pairing of Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn. And the reason why I say that is because another guy that we've had that a lot of Washington fans have been trying to get out, going back to the run game, is Brian Robinson. He had a couple fumbles in our loss, in a couple of our losses. He had some struggling moments. I mean, we damn near almost lost to the Saints because we couldn't get a run. Yeah. Couldn't run there too.
You're doing double duty on us, Brian? What's going on?
Yeah. Got to get ready to go.
That's right.
He changed his background.
Yeah. We're glad we can have you when we have you, man.
So I got a question for you. So, momentum-wise, if by chance this ends up being a high-scoring game, you see the Commanders actually being able to keep up with, an Eagle team that scores 30-plus points?
I think so. Both the scores of the games is 34-26 in the first one. That was far. It wasn't as close. But the second one, 36-33. It was a shootout. Now, mind you, that wasn't with Hurts. That was with Pickett. But one of the things that I love about Jaden is, like I said, in these moments, it's just like nothing flaps. Even if he turns the ball over, he just gets back to the sideline, looks what he has to do, and get back on the field. I 100% believe that if we get this offense going and get that momentum that you're talking about and continue what we have throughout these playoffs, I definitely think we can hang with them. But to your point, Ms. Stewart, it's going to have to be we're going to have to stay safe. No turnovers. We haven't had any turnovers thus far. We're going to in the playoffs. We're going to have to continue to have no turnovers, and we're going to have an effective run game. We're going to have all a balanced attack, because we're not going to be able to miss a possession, a drive with these guys. And fourth downs is going to be key. That's what we do. We've shown everybody we do it. Now even more in Detroit. We're going to have to be efficient on third and fourth down.
when Washington is successful on fourth down, more than 70% of the time, they've won 100% of the games.
Yep.
That's an insane
And
stat.
I think that's the trust. I think that's the trust. Like when I was going back to Brian Robinson, Coach Quinn went to Brian Robinson and said, listen, we're going to get it together, but I believe in you. And I think that's the same thing that happened with the Army. People like us that talk about this and go back and forth and, oh, this guy's not doing well. We're seeing it. We're not in-house. We're not in the facility every day. These guys are in the facility. And I think these coaches are out here talking to these guys like, keep sticking with me. We're going to get you in there. We're going to get, and I mean, think about it. Olamide Zacchaeus, Noah Brown. These are random guys that have all had somewhat big moments this season. And Diami, I think, is just another one of those type guys.
Right on. And he looks like he's ready to explode.
Yeah.
Who, me? I was just going to say that, 70% of the time he wins every time. It's just like, Paul Rudd's character from Ron Burgundy, the old Sex Panther. 60% of the time it works every time. But then here's the thing, though. Let's just say, theoretically speaking, you got the Commanders that come out there running flat. They can't get anything going. How are you going to get them out of that funk? Because very quickly, Philly could be up by 2 touchdowns, and next thing you know, how do you prevent that from happening? How do you pull that complacency? What are you going to do with that?
Well, and thankfully we've been in this situation before. I mean, let's go back to that Falcons game. The Falcons game was 17-7 at the half. We completely looked dead in that first half, and then all of a sudden we made some adjustments and we switched it up in the second half. I mean, it's going to have to be the game. It cannot be just a quick 4-quarter boom. It's going to each quarter. It's going to have to be a separate game, each different piece. And I think out of the halftime adjustments, that last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half are going to be huge. They're going to be huge for us. Thank you. Going forward. But again, it's a crapshoot, man. The fact that we're here, this is icing on the cake. I'm going to crack open my brew and be like, thankfully we're here. And if by chance we move on, it's all over. I'm good. And don't let us move on and play the Chiefs, beat the Chiefs. Then it's over. Then we're bringing you over, Brian. Then you are going to be a full-time member of the team.
I'm still waiting for you to send that jersey. You know that. Right?
I got you. I got you, man. But you realize though, if we win, and you got this background, like I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. You're gonna have to keep this for the Super Bowl.
Right.
You realize that.
If you pull this off, all of us will have that background except for Andy, because for some reason it doesn't work on his phone.
But I got one more point on this game, and I was just looking at some more, analytical type of stuff. But here's something to watch that, Philly center Cam Jurgens is hurt. And I'm still looking. He's still a game time decision. He has not. Yeah. He I guess he was very limited at Friday's practice, and that's all he did all week. And if it's a back injury, that's something to really look at, because obviously everybody knows when Kelsey retired, this is the guy that had to fill the shoes. And now if this guy goes, okay, now the cohesiveness on that offensive line just went to crap. So let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Hope it's so.
So give me your point prediction. Who wins, who loses? Ooh. Who's your player of the game? Who's going first? Go ahead, Sean.
I'll go real quick. I got 34-31 Washington wins it on the last play of the game. Terry has notoriously had great games against Philly. Not so much in the first game this year, but the second game he came through. Terry's going to be the player of the game. He's going to play big against those corners.
Right on. Brian, what you got?
Oh my God. I don't want to say it. I mean, if I'm going to go by my prediction, I'm going to go 27-24 Eagles, but I'd like to switch that to Commanders.
ELGLES. Who's your player of the game?
That also helps us.
Might be. You want me to go or what?
I think maybe Brian froze.
No, I didn't freeze. I'm right here. See.
Who's your player of the game?
Oh, my player of the game.
There we go.
Obvious. To me, it's going to be unfortunately, Saquon Barkley. But if let me put it this way, I would love to see nothing but that kicker from the Commanders kick another doink in, just to piss off Bear fans. We had a double doink.
Yeah, he's a double doinker, right?
Andy,
I hate to say it. I think the Eagles got too much firepower in one player, and they're not going to have a chance to be able to actually stop that player. I guess I'm talking about Jalen Hurts, the facilitator, the manager. He's going to be able to actually pass the ball a little bit downfield, and he's going to be able to get it to Saquon. And I think Saquon's probably going to go for well over 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably end up being a little bit closer within a touchdown, but you'd probably be relatively high scoring in my opinion. So, 30-25 kind of a thing.
That's nice.
Right on. As a Bucs fan, there's no way I can go for the Eagles here.
Yeah.
I hate the Eagles.
Yeah.
Bucs notoriously hate the Eagles. I've got to go with Washington here, even though my brain's telling me not to. My brain's like, steer clear, lean towards Philly taking it in a blowout. But if Washington wins this game, it's going to be at least by a touchdown or more. I don't see them winning a 3-point game. I don't see them winning by less than 7. I'll take Washington 27-17.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Austin Eckler has a big game, I think. I think you're going to see Eckler control the pace of the game for him. And that's the only way I see it happening.
Johnny, let's go, Johnny.
So I got the Eagles losing by heart. My head's telling me otherwise, so let's go Hart.
Okay.
Brian.
Yeah, go Hart. Yo.
you got some bets for us today?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. And it's all on this game, by the way. I'm not doing that Kansas City Roughs game. Let's just start off. I am taking the Commanders plus the 6.5. Let's just get that out of the way. But here's some interesting little props to play. You can make a little change on this. Take Saquon Barkley to get 2+ TDs is sitting at plus 200. In the game, each team to score 1 rush and 1 pass TD is a plus 225.
Okay.
You want to say, yes, there will be a 2-point conversion, and yes, there will be a successful 2-point conversion. You can get both of those at plus 130 and 280 if you want. So there you go.
I can dig it. Oh yeah.
About to end this championship edition of the Krewe NFC Roundtable. Gentlemen, do we have some closing thoughts? Did it successfully.
Raise hail, baby. Raise hail.
Die, Eagles, die.
Yes.
Andy, you got anything for us today?
My goodness. You just feel it's palpable, the tension. Everybody knows Bears going to win this year.
All right, then. As always, I'd like to thank our Washington families for allowing us to be a moron for at least 1 hour every Sunday and most days of the week. Until next time. Dang, I was going to leave Sean on. The dude dipped out before I could do it. Go Bills. Seriously. Go Bills. God, I hate the Chiefs.